God is good, and today guys I want to talk to you a little bit about an MMO that I haven't talked about on the channel yet, and that is Fractured. So Fractured is an open world sandbox MMORPG which is trying to mix that single player action combat from a action RPG or an ARPG single player experience like Diablo or something like that, but to combine that with fully interactable environments in an open world sandbox environment. So very different than what we've mostly seen. So the reason, first of all, I have to clear this up. The reason I haven't talked about Fractured on my channel before is I'm just going to be clear with you guys. I'm not a big fan of the isometric view. I don't know why, but for some reason I don't get as immersed in that from that viewpoint. However, there are examples of games I fell in love with that were isometric, including mini CRPGs and also Ultima Online. But let's talk a little bit about Fractured today. I want to give you this is just to mainly let you know what this game is trying to achieve, and I feel like the game is pretty far enough into development that we're probably going to see more and more from it in the future, probably in a pretty steady pace. So first of all, let's talk about it. So the main thing that I thought was so interesting about this game was that there are 3 races. Each race has a totally different gameplay style. So you hear me talking about Dark Age of Camelot having the 3 realms and how awesome I thought that was. Well, this is a totally unique take on that. So depending on what race you pick will change where you start your journey, right? And of course that's going to include you're going to have different quests and different adventures. Depending on that, obviously you're in a different land. But it also has a big impact on the actual game mechanics, right? Because each race has their own society. And so they have different rules and things are different there. So let's start with the humans, right? So humans, they're not born good or bad. They can be law abiders or they can be criminals, right? That's up to you how you want to play your character if you pick a human. Now the human planet, which is the planet you would start on if you choose that race, has 3 continents best I can gather, and it's a lawful PvP server. In other words, it's got a justice guard system, so different people, actual players, can own different cities and kind of set the rules, but everything is based on being lawful. So being a criminal has harsh penalties, kill on sight, all kinds of things like that you would imagine, making it harder for you to trade, etc. But you can do it if that's how you decide to play the game. And of course they'll reward people who are more lawful and hunt down the criminals, etc. Of course the rules can be tweaked with, and the economy is a big deal if you play a human, as far as resources being very rare, trading them with other continents, all that kind of stuff that you would expect. But if you're more in the mood to be a criminal, well, maybe you might want to head over to the planet of Tartaros. Now, if you want to play on that server, then you're going to want to pick a demon. Now, that's lawless PvP. So if you're looking for more of a chaotic play style, I would recommend playing as a demon, because on their planet, that's more acceptable. Also, this planet will be scarce, of course, in resources and filled with a lot of danger on the PvE side as well. Demons are naturally evil aligned, as you might imagine, so it makes sense in their world that they're going to be killing each other and, of course, killing other races, and this is really a choice for people, as stated by the developers, that are hungry for blood and dream of becoming a legendary Ravager, an assassin, or worse. Now, last but not least, we have the Beastmen, and this is all about a beautiful vegetative world. They're very connected to nature, and all about survival skills. Now this is a PvE server, so if you don't want PvP at all, then guess what? In this one game, we have all 3 options. We have the chaotic PvP system with the demon world. We have the more lawful abiding PvP with the humans. And then for the Beastmen, we have PvE with no PvP, so just cooperative play in a peaceful community, and that planet is called Arboreus. Now each one of these planets has several continents, lots to explore. It's basically a good meaty MMO in each category, and I think that this is a great idea and really cool, and an awesome way, in my opinion, to do expansions, right? So you introduce a new race, you introduce a new planet, and the lore and everything, maybe you're starting to understand why it's called fractured, because these are 3 planets fractured from one another. But this opens up lots of possibilities, and I love it when a developer comes up with a way to make their game in such a clever way that it sets itself up for almost limitless possibilities with expansions or more content going forward. And I think this is one of the rare cases, along with, I'd say, Pantheon, where this just is an open book. They, not very limited and, very unlimited in what they want to do in the future of the game. Now, this game offering 3 totally different playstyles, all technically on the same server, but on different worlds, is quite a feat. And that alone made me decide, since we're getting a lot closer to this game coming out, not to say it's coming out tomorrow or anything, because it's not, but it is worth mentioning that if you were already a backer, that on April 10th, few days ago, they did open it up for some testing, so some people are actually enjoying the game right now. Let's talk a little bit about the economy in this game. So we all kind of depend on what you've played, etc. You kill a pig in the wild and he drops a beautiful chest piece and doesn't make sense. So that's not going to be the case in this game. They're trying to get away from some of those RPG cliches. And this is a game where items are crafted by players, period. So this is a game about resources and distribution of those resources for profits, and people making the game into that, where they actually craft an item, travel somewhere where that item maybe isn't as available to that market and selling it. And of course, as I just mentioned before, depending if you were to go to another planet, could be dangerous there, right? Because each planet has its own rule system. So, take a bigger risk, get a bigger reward kind of system. Now, of course, they also want to have an option where you can stake land in an open world and begin, making a farm to cultivate and maybe do livestock and get into that business. And they want to make it clear that this is something people will need to do, because players need access to food and water, as that is essential for survival in this game, especially when you want to travel to other planets, which people, let's be honest, are going to want to do. There's also mining and wood cutting, metal, gems, herbs, so lots of different commodities, and each planet kind of offers their own thing. I remember reading that the human settlement is going to be huge for, I believe it was wood and stone. So I would assume that gems would probably be on the demon planet, just guessing. I would also assume that wood would probably be pretty abundant in the Beastmen. So lots of options there, and a lot to go out and harvest. And since you're dealing with different planets, it makes it more interesting. When you have to harvest these things, you have to go to different rule sets, right? It's almost like entering another server as far as what people are allowed to do to you while you're there, or what you can do to them. So it's pretty exciting stuff. And then, of course, there's other types of harvesting where you have to go out and kill stuff, of course, right? Like fur and hides, bones, that kind of thing, which of course involves PvE combat. Now, another very interesting feature of this game is that it's not going to have the classic leveling up system. This is more about gathering up knowledge and building your character with skills and things like that. So basically the way that they're talking about this game is if you're tired of having to spend 150 hours before you can actually feel like you're actually playing the game, then in this game you can just join in with your friends no matter where they are, no matter how long they played, and just start adventuring with them. So it's more about gathering up knowledge and reputation instead of just gathering up a bunch of attribute points, right? So it's not the conventional RPG leveling up system or skill systems that you probably are used to and probably thinking right now. They want to more reward you for your courage and cleverness, and not for the amount of hours you spent killing things. Now let's talk a little bit about the combat. So it's trying to break the typical what you expect from an MMO game, make it more like a single player action RPG, but in a sandbox environment. So you're gonna have to learn to aim, dodge. There's over 400 abilities and 40 different status effects. We're talking about interactable environments. If there's a river nearby, they mention, you'll be able to animate that water to protect you if you have the skills to do so, or freeze the water in order to make a bridge, a natural bridge that you can cross over to the other side. And then when the monsters come on that bridge, you can melt it and then they drown. So this game is all about using the environment around you in order to exploit and defeat enemies in situations of peril. Also, I mentioned it a little bit before, maybe you're more the building and governing an empire type. Well, this is possible in this game too through their guild system. So through the guild system, you could become a governor and develop social and trading and military options within that landmass. But of course, if you do that, the larger you get or the more powerful you get, you're going to begin to get noticed by other players, and then you're setting yourself up, of course, for raids and sieges, which are also possible in this game. So let's break it down real quick. Number one, progression is horizontal. So instead of just constantly grinding away for skills, you're literally just trying to get more knowledge in order to build those skills. Also, armor is horizontal. So there's not armor tiers. Now, obviously, there are differences between the types of gear, such as cloth versus wearing plate, but we're more used to seeing tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, etc., and that's just not the case here. Also, the planets, depending on your race on where you start, so the humans, the demons, and the beastmen, each having their own individual rules. PvE with the beastmen, chaotic PvP with the demons, and lawful PvP with the humans gives us a wide range of options of how we want to play our game. Now, from my understanding, however, as you do interplanetary travel, say you're a beastman doing nothing but PvE and you enter the demon world, well, I'm sorry, but you now are up to the rules of their system. So if a beastman were to enter the demon's planet, then you're now up for PvP. Now, what that means is there are options as far as how you want to play your character. Perhaps you want to play a beastman, but you want to go evil, and you want to go live on Tartaros with the demons and become a PvP champion. Well, that's fine. You can do that. Or you could play a demon and decide, I'm going to be a good guy and go and become an angel and go live on Arboreus with the beastmen, or with the humans, whatever. I mean, so you can see that there are complete options as far as how you want to play your game. I really like that. I think that's a really good idea to kind of, because everybody's trying to satisfy everybody, and it's impossible, right? So I typically like it when MMOs just pick a niche, like, hey, we're a PvP game, okay? Hey, we're a PvE game. I like that, but coming up with this type of system where you can kind of satisfy all three, and sometimes you kind of coerce people into trying something that maybe they're a little uncomfortable with, which isn't a bad thing as long as a person has the option not to do it. So for example, offering the option where a beastman who loves PvE, but he's tempted one day, he wants to go check out the demon world, he wants to see what is all this chaotic PvP about, then he has an option, he can do that and go experience that, and hey, that person may like that game style. And as far as the environmentals being interactive, that's really cool. If they can pull this off, that would be really cool, right? So shooting electricity into the water to kind of electrify it, setting trees on fire, that sounds really cool. Now, when I see it in action, we'll really get to kind of judge how cool that is, because it sounds a little too good to be true, to be honest with you, in my opinion so far. But if that is really something they can pull off in a really substantial, persistent kind of way, that would be pretty awesome. I think that players will find some pretty creative ways to kind of force them to be a little bit more limited on it, or have to rework that a lot and often, because that's what players do. But it's still very awesome idea, and hopefully that does work out for them. So plenty of PvE and PvP content. They're going to have open world dungeons, events, city conquests, you've got the sieges, you have city building, plenty to do as far as content is involved, and you need a lot of options as far as what the player does in a game like this, because it is a sandbox. So you want people to have lots of options on what they want to do, and kind of give them that kind of tool set so they can kind of create their own kind of content, because that's what Sandbox is all about. Now, one thing that I thought was interesting is I didn't hear anything about traveling by boat yet. or any kind of selling or pirate type activity. Of course, that's something that could come later on, as that is pretty common in these type of sandbox type games. And that's all the information as far as a basic what is Fractured that I could find, guys. Hope it has you a little bit excited, because I think it's a pretty good idea. And I'll have a link down below if you want to go to the official website and check out more information or dig into it a little more. Hope you enjoyed the video today, guys. And let me know in the comments down below. Does Fractured sound like a cool game that you would want to try out? Is it just not the game for you? And if it's not, then why? And what are some features of Fractured that has you the most excited? Let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, guys, God bless and happy gaming.
Listen to what I say. I've been making videos all day. My friends all say I'm it's a video buffet. You can even hit replay. But please just subscribe. I can't even describe being part of my tribe. I'll even offer you a prize. But just please just subscribe and hit the bell notification too.